And we are back. We got away with one a little bit there. Leicester City, Watford 1, Leicester City 2. Anil, get into the game. How did you think that went?
Oh, very interesting game. I think, at one point we were completely home and dry, and I thought it's just going to be how many are we going to get? We looked like we'd sewn up the game. Then a real collector's item. I don't think you're going to see too many of those. Harry Winks with a pass that, like you actually said when we were watching the match, that's a pass you would make, but I think you're giving yourself not enough credit. I don't think even you would make a pass that bad.
I
You
said
could
it was
see
on FIFA.
on
I can't play
FIFA.
FIFA. That is a FIFA pass from me.
Got you. Well, it was just funny seeing his reaction. He just felt so guilty, like the world had come in on him. Like he obviously couldn't believe it. I think it was really nice though, actually, that I think it was definitely Fass and Hermanson. I think there might have been someone else by as well, but they went straight up to him and they just consoled him. They said, look, don't worry about it. Everyone's going to make a mistake sometimes, even you. Let's just get on with it. From that point on, it's kind of interesting. We still had some chances where I felt we could have put it away, but it does kind of feel like we got away with getting the points. At the end, it'd be interesting to see what Watford fans think. Look, I think on the overall context of play, though, we were clearly the better team and definitely deserved to win that game. And we just made it way harder for ourselves than it had to be. Ultimately, we saw it off quite professionally. We've got the points, we come away. That was good. I think it's an interesting game just because sometimes it felt a little bit lackluster, but we were playing some nice stuff. So, to be honest with you, it's been said all season. I wouldn't quite say it was second gear Leicester, but maybe not quite third either. So maybe 2.5, because I felt there was a few times where like we were one pass away from an absolutely beautiful move. And our second goal, I mean, we were watching it and we were jokingly saying that we felt one of the people had disappeared off for a quick hand shuffle, as we call it, because the move was so unbelievable. Like just watching it play out and in real time. I mean, I just thought it was such a. Let's definitely talk about that in a minute. That was Enzo ball. That was just so good to see. And we almost pulled that off a few more times. If we did pull that off like one more time, then I think we might have a different conversation in this match. Look, we're too good for this division. We're going up. We got the points. We deserve to win. Ultimately, we probably had to rely on our powers of resilience a lot more than we thought we would.
But we've not seen that in the past as well. You look at the likes of Ipswich games and things where we've seen the goals coming, and it did come. Without sounding too bad, at least the goal didn't come. We took all 3 points from the game.
Yeah. Do you know what? I felt like the goal was coming, though. That is the problem. There was that thing near the end where it deflected off. Fass almost scored 2 own goals today. He's got something about it, doesn't he? He's obviously maybe that's something that Enzo's got to learn if he's thinking about putting him in the middle, which we should talk about that. So yeah, put it this way: if that game would have ended 2-2, yeah, I would have felt like I saw it coming, kind of thing. But I think it is justice that it didn't. And to be honest with you, I still think that they were lucky to get 2-1, because if they hadn't have been let back in it, they were really offering nothing. So it's just what they call like it's the momentum of the game, really, isn't it? That's look, football's a brilliant game and a brilliant sport for this reason. That's what I always love about it. It's just like, I mean, and it's funny with Watford because, of course, they had Deeney Day against us as well, and that's the ultimate of how, I don't know about you. We should just reminisce on that quickly. Yeah, 10 years. Was it not to the day, because it was obviously in probably May, wasn't it? Because that's when the playoffs were. But I mean, that was just crazy because we'd played really badly that game. Knockout did an absolute dive, got the penalty, and you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to scam our way to the final. We're literally 2 seconds away from it. And 90 seconds later, we're out of the playoff completely. That is football. That was for us, unfortunately, the bad side of it. So maybe today we get the good side of it. But yeah, let's go through it, the lineup and everything. Lots to talk about. But it's a surprisingly entertaining and more stressful game than I ever thought it would be. But definitely not a dull watch. Definitely not a dull watch.
It wasn't, but there was parts, I think, we'll get into that in a second. But you're right, in terms of some of the complacency at times around the game. We'll get into that. But again, this is how this set up. Again, there was a few changes. Normally, we see the same Enzo team, but there was a little bit of rotation. Got Hermanson obviously down there. We'll come on to in a second. But the back three was interesting. The fact that you've got the opportunity of playing Connor Cody at the back. But he decided, but even somebody like Doyle, who we saw later on in the game. But the fact they chose, this is the formation they ended the Stoke game with. Fast in the middle, Nelson to the right, and James Justin to the left. As a back three, I know we mentioned like Fast had nearly a couple of howlers, but in general, the back three, how do you think they coped with Watford's pressure? Because they were quite a physical side. And took us up. I think at times, even though we were the better team, they did at times decide to come at us.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to say. Mixed, I would say. Ben Nelson was okay, but he got yellow carded, and then they changed him. I think other than that, he looked okay. I'm actually quite delighted he gave him the start, to be honest with you, because the one thing you'll say is this is obviously the next one off the production line, isn't he? He's going to be a Leicester player for some time. What level is he going to get to? Because, you know, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is superb. Harvey Barnes was superb. Hamza's kind of in the middle. I think Nelson might be better than Hamza, though, is what I'm saying. I'm not sure he'll quite be as good as the KDH Barnes level. We'll see. So I'm encouraged by that. I think he had a mixed game. I think he didn't deal with the physical pressure so much. I think specifically on his side, Ken Sema for Watford, I think had a really good game, actually. He had that one point in the first half where Winks tried to drag him down, couldn't, and still got booked for it. He then beat 4 other players before I think it was Patson Daka actually stopped him. So fair play to Patson for doing his defensive work. So he had a bit of a tough time there, but he didn't get completely rinsed. It wasn't like he was removed because he was like getting absolutely skinned. I think he got removed because he probably thought, let's give him like 45 to 60. And then when he was on the card, he's like, we just need to see the game out. He'll understand. So I think solid from him. But look, he's a young player that's learning his trade. So one of those kind of performances. JJ, I thought it was quite good, to be honest with you. I actually think JJ's played his way into the first team, in my opinion. I think he's better than Doyle. I think he's very trustworthy. I'm not sure. Yeah, that I agree with Sean there. First starts, I'll give Ben Nelson today. Exactly. And I don't think he was poor. That's my point. It's just I don't think, like, if you said he was 6 out of 10, I would agree with that. Put it that way. So 6 is kind of average, right? You're not poor, but you definitely didn't take the balls by the horns.
He's a young player, 19. He's just coming. He's just getting himself into the Championship. As you're mentioning, he's one for the future. And even though he didn't have a bad game, he had an okay game, but that's fine. Again, it's minutes in the belt for him at the end of the day.
Yeah, and to deal with that type of opponent too, which is kind of like fast and powerful, which is always a tricky one to do. Like I remember Ben Chilwell being up against Adama Traore in one of his first games, and that was a painful one. You know, you got someone who's twice as tall and twice as wide as you, and they're fast. It's tricky. JJ, I thought, had a very solid game. Like I said, for me, I would have him in my first team. I think he's very good. I trust him. It's interesting because his role is different to what it was when he was a raiding fullback, but he's got pace, he's got physicality, he's good on the ball, he connects the dots. I think he's just good. He doesn't have quite the range of passing or being able to pick a pass as well as Callum Doyle, but I just think the overall package you get with JJ is really good. And I can't really think of a bad game he's had for us this season. Maybe he had it earlier on, but I just feel that every game he does not just okay but good. Like, you know, he could have been 7.5 or 8 for me out to this day. I think it was good. And I think he actually did deal with the physical and the pace that Watford put us quite well. So I think that was good. Fass had an interesting game for me. There were points where I thought he was great, but he almost scored 2 own goals, which is not so great. So it's a bit difficult. Now let's talk about it. So the interesting thing is Vestergaard was injured for this game. I think he'll also be injured for the next game. So most people would assume that we play Connor Cody there as the rotation option, as that ball distributing centre back. But instead, he's played Wout Fass there instead. Now that is interesting because Fass won a penalty in his last game. And how did he win it? By doing your favourite, Neil, the fast special, as we like to call it, where he picks up on the ball. Yeah, he decides he's actually the reincarnation of Ryan Giggs. And to be fair play to him, he always gets past at least a few men, and he won a penalty last game. What we're really hoping for is he's actually going to do the finish himself rather than a penalty. And I guarantee you, at some point in his Leicester career, he will score that goal, and it'll be a great day when it happens. Mm-hmm. So I guess what we're saying is what's kind of interesting is that kind of says to us that he should be better as one of the left-sided or right-sided centre-backs because they have more license to roam forward. So today he's been trusted to play more of that ancillary role and, you know, really protect the positioning and the space. I think his distribution was good. He was good on the ball, but yeah, sometimes when he's under pressure, like those when we scoring the 2 own goals was rash. And that's the thing with Fass. So I said it to you on this show before as well, that I think his ceiling is actually very high, but I always feel like he's got a mistake in him. Now, I do think this season, I think especially from Christmas time onwards, he stepped it up a lot. And I think he would have been absolutely superb. And I've seen him, he's in a lot of neutral fans' team of the championship so far. That's how highly he's rated. And I can see that argument because sometimes the way that he deals with the pressure is absolutely superb. So I guess I'm saying that this position, for me, is not convincing. Do you know what, though? Maybe it's good managerial sense to actually put him in this position. Just hear me out here. Because if you know someone's a bit rash, maybe the way to get that out of that game is to play them in a sort of position where they need to learn that they can't just be like that, if you see what I mean, right? Because then you have to, like, for example, in an Ajax academy, what they do when you're learning is they put you in every single position, including goalkeeper for a little bit. And the idea is that, like, you know, when you play that position, you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to look at Neil, the left back, the same way again, because now I understand the way that he plays. Like, is difficult. I thought it was easy, but boy, you got to get up and down and do all this stuff. So, you know, maybe there's something to be said that there for doing it, because look, we had this conversation with a few people. In fact, it was Chris, so Charlie, when we were in our chat, he was saying how you know, would you trust Vestergaard as the ball distributing centre back in the Premier League next year? I think he'll start as first choice, and I think he'll be given a contract extension. But yeah, you've just made a sort of face there of a lot of people aren't in agreement with me there. So okay, so let's go down your line of thinking. Let's go down the Neil and Charlie route of thinking that you're not convinced he can do that. Maybe he's good enough for the squad, but not first choice. So are we going to invest in a new centre back, or are we going to try someone else there? And so maybe trying faster is because on paper he's faster, he's more physical, and he is still good on the ball. So perhaps he could be tried there and he could be the answer. Because the thing is that, like, I'm just going to be realistic with you. I think when we get to the summer window, I'm not expecting tons of signings. I think we will make them. We will for sure make them, right? But I think it could even be a bit like this year where we go for loan signings. Like, it's not just us. Across the Premier League in general, spending is down massively. People are terrified of financial fair play. Clearly, people overspent post-COVID, and now it's catching up with them. It's a bit like having that hangover, and now you got to go to the gym for a little bit to work it off, or, you know, have the coffees. So, you know, yes, maybe people do want an excellent ball distributing centre back, but I mean, they cost a lot of money. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, you know, recent things that I can think of, at the top end, you've got Guardiola at Man City, who cost 77 million. If we go down a little bit less, Spurs got like Christian Romero. They just bought Mickey Van. Yeah, who is that Romanian player they just bought? I think he was still around 30 million or something. Radu something or other. I know they got Mickey van der Ven as well, but he's more of a fast one. But my point is that's the sort of money that you're talking about, right? So I think we've got to be realistic. I don't think we're gonna. That's why, for me, I think we are gonna see Vestergaard. Do you not
think that Connor Cody could do that role?
Yes. So this was an interesting discussion we had pre-match. My honest feeling is I think that Connor Cody will still be in the Championship next season, and I don't think it will be with Leicester. The reason I think that, I feel a bit sorry for him. He may even have been brought to the club under somewhat false pretenses, but he's not getting into the team. But he's not getting into the team because the other players have been shown to be better than him. It doesn't even mean that he's been bad. I don't think he's been bad, but I don't think he's been as good as the other players. Today, Ben Nelson has started ahead of him. But I'd argue Ben Nelson looks a bit better than Cody, and he's younger and he's got more ceiling and room to grow and he's got more pace. So is he really needed? I think the thing is that if we go back to the first video Beyond the 90 made for this season, we were talking about pre-season, and Connor Cody was the ball playing, distributing centre back, and he was trying it. But every time he's been in that position, he's just not been as good as Vestergaard. And if I'm being honest, I don't think he's been as good as Fast either, because Fast has got quite good long range passing. He's really good at kind of picking the lofted passes and channeling it. So if we take all that into account, look, I'll just put it this way. I actually don't think Connor Cody is good enough for the Premier League. I think that's the reason why he came down to the Championship, if I'm being honest. The reality is he was at Wolves, who at the time were struggling against relegation. Then he went on loan to Everton, who were struggling against relegation. So neither of these two teams are particularly the top end, and neither of them wanted him. And then, okay, I'm sure he did have offers probably from like Sheffield United, Luton, and Burnley probably. And he's come down to us. But I just feel like if those teams like really, really, really wanted him, they would have put everything out to get him, and they didn't. And I just think that says a lot about him. And like I said, I don't want this to be like, oh, what have I got against Cody or anything like that? Not at all. I just think that's what it is. It's like age, your level, what it is. some people are, like, to be fair, a lot of people have said, oh yeah, Yannick Vestergaard is good, but he's found his level, and his level is the Championship. And you may well be proven right. But yeah, I just think in this kind of system, look, I might be wrong. He might still stay in the squad. But yeah, if you ask me, your question was, do I think he will be the player in the Premier League? No, I don't. For that to be the case, he would have to be playing like Yannick. He would have to be the person who's played 34 games, has the best pass completion rate in the league, is the sofa score top ranked centre back, absolute colossus. Everyone's like his first name on the team sheet. He's not even coming off the bench. You just got to be real. He's not that guy. So yeah, anyway, that's just talking about the thing. I think just quickly to mention as well, because near the end, Callum Doyle came on. And I think he was a bit shaky, to be honest with you. He got almost beaten for pace. Like I said to you, that the Sheffield United supporters who was on loan at last season told me that he is a very good player, but he's actually not the best defensively. And the Man City fans have also said that to me as well. And I think the more that I see him play, the more I'm starting to realize that's correct. And that's why teams are targeting him. And I think the reason why is because he is, for a young guy, he's a bit, he lacks a bit of pace, I would say. He doesn't seem like the most mobile. So I think that's something to watch out for. That's like I say, I would prefer to have JJ in the team ahead of him. It'll be interesting to see if Doyle's with us next year or not. But I think the fact that he still keeps coming on and Enzo likes him probably means he is going to be. He's also naturally left-footed, so we've got to get one naturally left-footed centre-back. But yeah, if I had to rank
one in the January as well, it was one of the places that I don't know if Enzo said, but there was definitely rumours from good quality sources that that's one position that we're looking for. Right-sided high eight and a left-footed centre-back.
Yeah, there's no smoke without fire either. There were two names thrown at that way. One was a guy called Lucas Beraldo who went to PSG. Why would you choose PSG over Leicester? What an idiot. The Championship's the better league than League 1.
We are the PSG of the Championship.
Exactly, definitely. And I'd rather spend my time in Leicester than Paris. Actually, to be honest with you, Paris isn't even that nice, especially in where that stadium is. Yeah, that was number one. And we were also linked to a guy called Nathan Zeze, who I happen to know because I signed him in my Football Manager save, and he's actually quite good. So that must mean he's good, right? But he's another left-footed centre-back. I think he plays for Nantes at the moment. But yeah, when there's multiple names, you know something's there. And it's like, say with the number 8s, we've been linked with at least 4 or 5 of them, and we almost signed one in Sensi. So, yeah, it seems that that's probably going to be a position. But look, let's just just because we haven't even talked about the rest of the team, but just to talk about the defenders. I think JJ was our best. I think Faz was overall solid, but I'm still not sure of him in that specific position. But I think to be fair, you need to try someone in that and give them a few games before they can get there. So it could still be worth pursuing with the experiment. Also, like the way that we conceded was nothing to do with him. So, he wasn't at fault for anything. And then Ben Nelson, kind of found out a little bit about what the Championship is, but not bad. And I think it's still good to give minutes. Callum Doyle looked a bit shaky when he came on, but to be fair, he did look quite good going forward, and he won us a free kick. Could almost have been a penalty, so you can see what he brings to the team. So, but yeah, interesting to see that thing. I don't think many people would have predicted that on the lineup selection today.
No, again, you're right. I don't think a lot of people did predict it. I think we got into. Oh, it's going to be something I was going to mention specifically about, again, coming into this game, the fact that we've got, again, certain people that were kind of. There was parts of the game where it went a little bit lull. I think Casey McAteer was in a good position. Defensive was quite good. At times, didn't quite take on his one-to-one. The likes of Mavididi did. Just to kind of highlight. Patson Daka got his goal. I think Fatawa actually had a really underrated game as well.
Interesting. Okay.
I think that the work that he did, how he played, and actually something that I want to bring up that I think will get looked over. People know that Casey McAteer, Kindred Hall has got 10 goals and 10 assists. And behind him, Abdul Fattah has actually got 2 goals. He's got 9 assists.
Yeah, actually, I was just thinking he got assists for that second goal, and that was an unbelievable assist, actually, because maybe we should talk about it now, but that goal was just so good. And the reason why, just because I know it wasn't the first time we scored, but the reason why I loved it is that is Enzo ball at its finest. So we're playing it around the back, trying to drag them out of position, which is taking a risk. We literally conceded our goal through taking a risk. So that's the downside of what can happen with it. Oh, get forward, right? But by playing it through, it comes back to Mads, and Mads plays it a short pass between a small gap to go through the lines, and it gets played into midfield, and then we can turn, and then all of a sudden, within just a space of a few seconds, we've got a 5-on-4 against them, right? And the whole team is dynamic. We've basically created a counter-attack, but we had possession. So that's like the idea of this sort of football, is you're combining the best worlds of possession and the best worlds of counter-attacking together. And then just the way that the goal is scored is because it's so simple. That's why it's so beautiful. It's elegant. It's just simple passing. And when it goes to Fatawu, instead of like cutting in and trying to lash it in, which would have looked glorious and been all about the individual glory, he just picks a really simple but well-played pass at the right time to the right person. And Ricardo just needs to side foot it and put it into the back of the net. And Ricardo's the one who picks up the ball on the turn when we play through the lines. And if Ricardo didn't get it, there was 3 other people in the box. We had 5 people in the box when we went on the attack. Brilliant. From Ratau's perspective, yeah, it's another assist. I told you, I think earlier in the season, that someone shared that they did a stats breakdown, and of the teenagers in Europe, in fact, not just teenagers, but players, he is getting into the box with the ball at a rate that is amongst the very elite. There was only one other player getting into the box more often than him with the ball, which was Ousmane Dembele, who's gone to PSG now. And they're playing in a farmers league themselves, right? Where they're the top people, and they're you know what, they got Luis Enrique, so it's quite similar. They have like 75% possession all the time, and they're relying upon him to give the ball to Mbappe, essentially. So you can see how good that is. But that overall move was brilliant. And yeah, 9 assists, that's really impressive. And, you know, that's the thing. I think it's not always about the goals. Like, I really rate that as a youngster as well, because, you know, we were trying to make your mark on the men's game. It must be so tempting just to be greedy. Like, do you remember Mavididi earlier in the season against Southampton, right?
And
no,
he's
no,
6
I'm
years
not
older
having
than him as well. I'm not blaming him, but we mentioned the difference between Fatal, a 19-year-old and a 25-year-old in terms of experience, and also where Mavridi's been at Juventus and playing first-team football for the number of years.
Yeah, I would expect the older player to be the one who's a bit more mature and realizes it's a team game and is happy to play in his teammate when necessary. And I expect the younger one to be a bit more rash and hot-headed, but sometimes does this incredible stuff that no one can stop. And so it's kind of funny how those two are the other way around. That we're massive fans of Steffi Mavididi, by the way. Well, actually, I don't know about you, but I think for me, I've really been won over by him. I think since around November onwards, he went on a fantastic run. I was like, wow, actually, you know, at first I thought he'd be good enough for the Championship and not sure about the Premier League. But now I think he's going to be a Leicester cult hero, and more than just cult hero, but I think he's going to be a Leicester hero for some time. I just think the way that he plays the game is exciting, and that's always nice to see, right? He's daring and will try something. But yeah, that was brilliant from Fatawu.
And we've mentioned as well that when he started the season, he should have been more selfish, and he was being more selfish. Now in this position on the right hand side, I think he's pretty much nailed down that position. Same way that Mavididi's nailed down that position as well. It's hard for Yunus to break into the team. It's hard for other Mavididi. So McAteer didn't actually do too badly today, but you can see the levels between him and Mavididi when he comes out, when Mavididi comes back into the side. Even for the few minutes that Mavididi played, you could see that he's almost tailored fit to that position.
Yeah, I think that's worth talking about. So yeah, today Mavididi didn't start. He started Casey McAteer at left wing. So the Casey McAteer roulette continues again. It's like every time he plays, what position is he going to play? He's played right wing, right cam, left wing. I'm sure he's probably played as left cam at moments in games as well. So he's played everywhere across those positions. Now, what is interesting there is that, Yunus didn't play. Dennis Pratt came in as well. Yunus also didn't come off the bench. So I think there's got to be high speculation that as he reaching his appearances limit, and is it a case that we're not going to sign him? I think the next game is going to be telling. I think if he doesn't come on in the next game, it's over for him. We're not going to sign him. And I think that'd be sad. I think, like I said, I felt like Cassidy got a lot more games than him and never looked as good as him. But look, money's money. I get that. And if you're not convinced, that's the manager shouldn't be forced to pick someone. It's not about being nice in football. But yeah, Casey McAteer, he played at the left wing. He was decent off the ball, but as you said, it's just like we said it right at the top of the show. He's not someone that is that good at beating his opponent one-on-one. I think he's a bit like Harvey Barnes. Like Harvey Barnes scored a lot of goals from his position, but he never did it through beating a man. He did it by playing the 1-2, receiving it, and then just tucking it into the corner. And I think McAteer will be the same. And that's fair enough, because you have to be like a really good dribbler to be a winger, to be honest with you. That's the primary skill. And he doesn't have it. I feel it's like almost like something you're born with. You can improve it to some degree, but that low center of gravity, gazelle-like legs and ability to get the acceleration. You know what I mean? There's a reason why when you're a kid, it's like, no, you're going to be playing as centre back, or you're going to be playing as a centre forward, or you're going to play as goalkeeper. It's the genetics that you're given somewhat determines it. And yeah, I still felt even when Mavadidi came on, even though it was quite a Steffi Mavadidi performance in that he beat a few players and put the shot wide, or you could still see he put in a lot of hard work as well, but you saw the quality difference, which I think is what we're saying there. And then look, I think we should touch upon Dennis Pratt quickly, because he played, I think, almost the whole game. No, towards the end, he came off for Hamza to try and see the game out. I thought it was quite solid, to be honest with you, Neil. He won the first goal with that lovely Cruyff turn. It was a clear pen. He got that. There was a few other times where he almost put a killer pass in. I remember there was one where it was just like, the defender just got to it near the first half. He got a foot to it. If he didn't, he was going to roll it into Patson, who was going to put it away. So I think he was quite solid, to be honest with you. I would just say, though, it's kind of funny with that position, how we started off with Cassidy. Then we've had Ndidi. Well, actually, it was Ndidi, Cassidy, and Pratt have all played it. And the hilarious thing is that none of those players might be here next season. I got a feeling Wilfred Ndidi probably will
well,
be.
from what it looks like.
Right, but yeah, which is fair enough. But I mean, why I'm bringing this up is, I guess my point I've always said is that, like, if you're going to give game time to people, I think you should be giving it to people that are going to be here for the long term. And, we've always said this. You can tell that, like, well, maybe Enzo doesn't want him here, but I can tell that Yunus does want to be here. I don't think Pratt does want to be here.
No,
Cassidy's already gone.
Years.
For all we know, Cassidy did want to be here, but it doesn't have the choice anymore. And Ndidi will be an interesting one. I think he would want to stay. I think it just depends on what gets offered, because actually, to be honest with you, it's kind of good that the Saudi leagues aren't doing as good as they were in the past, because I think he would have been a big option for them. Yeah, let's see, because the problem is with a free transfer is I don't think Leicester are going to give him the wages that another team might give him. If he's happy here, he'll still stay. So that's the good news, I think. But I don't think he's going to be first choice next season either. So,
For me, it would have been really interesting if Ndidi was fit and he went to AFCON, because he wouldn't have been playing that high 8. He would have gone back to the 6 role. Yeah. And in that, he would have gone, in the season, I've achieved all these goals and assists in this position. Then obviously for the country, I'm going back to the position of, I don't exactly know Chris Hughes, but I know Chris Hughes a little bit in terms of football, but he'd probably play him as that 6th position.
He's the Ghana coach. He got sacked, believe it or not.
Yeah.
No, there's a different...
Yeah.
There's a Nigeria coach. Is someone different. Sorry. Yeah, they're in the final. Kelechi got into the final. He scored a penalty. Yeah, that's true. But I've got a feeling that when you play for your national team, it's just you're happy to play for your national team. He's always played that position there for them. Also, to be fair, I don't know if you've seen Nigeria have got some absolutely ridiculous attackers. Like Osimhen couldn't even go. Indeed, he couldn't go. They're still in the final. Do you know Ademola Lookman plays for them now as well? And since Lookman's gone to Atalanta, he's been superb. They've got a lot of Gift Orban. Well. Yeah, they've got a lot of good players. Boniface got injured as well from Leverkusen. There's so many good Nigerian strikers at the moment. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I know what you mean though. It'd be interesting as you say though. It's funny that they've got to the final without him though, because you'd have thought he'd probably be really good for them. Let's see if they don't win. It might be, maybe he helps them with them. The other guy could be his replacement. Who knows? He's got things called Al Hassan Yusuf from plays for some Turkish club or something like that. But yeah, look, I guess my point is that I expect us to sign at least one number 8 next season. I think we'll sign 2, because I think we obviously tried to get another one in this year as well anyway. Because to put it this way, I think even if Cassidy hadn't gone, I got a feeling we'd have still tried for Sensi actually. I think he just wants those options and cover there, especially with Ndidi getting injured. So let's see what happens next time round.
Yep, let's see what happens. And just coming into that as well, just on the back of literally an award last time. So the PFA delivered the Championship Player of the Month to Patson Daka for December. Again, I don't know why it wasn't January, but they delivered that to him. And then he gets on a score sheet again. Patson Daka keeps his place, keep scoring goals. He didn't have in terms of the game he played. He did some good play. He did go down a little bit. He did get injured, I think, in the first half. But I think it was a very Daka performance where he gets the goal, but he doesn't do a load else. But I think in terms of the
I
front
think you're
three,
being harsh, man. I
you
think you're
think
being
he's been really
yeah.
good.
We
He's a
just
really good
mentioned how
tackle at 36
yeah.
minutes to track back on their counter attack.
No, I think I do think you're being harsh there. I think yeah, he won the penalty, but he was making the runs all day long. And but like when we almost so yeah, it's funny. The first half we said we felt we were being like a bit lethargic, maybe, but the moves were happening. It's just like on the last pass, we weren't getting it right, but the pass was to him. So that's not his fault. Like if I can't play the ball to you, that's not your fault. You're standing in the right position. You made the right run. That's on me. I didn't give it to you. I think off the ball, he's good. He presses hard. He does things. I find it interesting because he obviously started the season as probably third choice, fourth choice striker, probably even. And now he's the first choice. And I think Enzo's really taken to him. And I think he looks really happy too. And I actually think like his overall play and his link-up plays improved a lot. Someone said again before the game that they felt that like he's not good enough to play the Enzo system in the Premier League. I wouldn't write him off. I mean, actually coming to Fatawa as well, something that I've heard a lot is that with Red Bull, when they develop teams, they found that it's better to find players that are on their first or second contract and develop them. Because what they tend to find is they're like a sponge. It's a bit like a kid learning a language for the first time. Is that when it's your first kind of thing, you can learn the instructions much faster because you have no frame of reference. Whereas if you find a veteran who's played like for years and he's 28 years old, he doesn't want to learn a new system of playing. He already knows what he's good at. He's got the muscle memory. And this is why sometimes you get things like, for example, Ralph Hasenhüttl went to, not Ralph Hasenhüttl, so who's the other one? The Ralph Rangnick, that's it, went to Manchester United, and he tried to get them like to play this like 4-2-2-2, very German style. And the Man United players like, what is this guy smoking? I'm Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not running. You're running for me. I put it in the back of the net. Too arrogant, right? You know, of course, it's great, one of the greatest of all time, but you know, just sort of saying the different style of play. So what I'm saying with Patson is that I am noticing actually. So if you just watch his overall game performance, don't just look at like the you know the link up, but the working off the ball, his positions that he's taking. I can see why Enzo's liking him. I see a lot of improvements in this game, to be honest with you, that are subtle to the way the way that he spins and drops deep and makes the space and takes a defender with him. So I think he had a good game, to be honest with you, and he scored again. And you know he didn't get the Player of the Month curse, so I think he's done well. And how many goals is he on now? Bring up your chart again. Like he must be.
Yeah, let's bring that up. I think he's on 7 goals now, so he's absolutely exploded through the ranks. If we get that up there. So KDH is on 10. So 3 players are on 10. It was
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah. And now Patson Daka is on 0.91. I think that's just goals per 90. That's not even without assists.
Yeah. He's got like he's definitely
game.
a contribution. Exactly. And that's elite level. So that you can see no one else in the squad's got anywhere close to that. Well, Vardy maybe. So yeah, look, I think he's doing really good. That's my point. I think he's done well for the team, and you know I feel a bit sorry for Tom Cannon, who came in, looked great, and now he's probably not going to get another sniff till the end of the season, but work in progress. And I think Enzo's fair. Like what I think he's obviously said with Patson is that even though you're going to AFCON, you've shown me so much in the games and in training that you're still my choice, and I won't forget this when you return. And he's come back and he's proven the faith. And I think that is good management as well, especially if you've worked your way back into the team. I'd be curious, you may never find this out, but it might be like years later where players tell you and they'll be like, yeah, I was out of the team for a while, but I finally won him over. And then I had this game, and then all of a sudden it just completely transformed my fortunes. And I was in the team ever since. Like, you know, even look at the title winning season. We didn't start with Christian Fuchs and Danny Simpson at fullbacks. But after we got yeah, exactly. He started coming on as a left winger. That's the craziness, right? And then he just put them into positions. I remember the fullbacks. It's because we got battered by Arsenal. So the next game we put those 2 in, and we just looked so much better defensively. And Christian Fuchs never. I don't think Christian Fuchs came out of the team until he retired. That's basically what happened to him, right? You know, and got injured, and then Chilwell took over his position. So that was brilliant from his perspective. Kante, of course, you know, literally. Don't think he ever played a game worse than 8 out of 10 for Leicester. Something ridiculous there. So
And speaking of players that don't tend to play less than 8 out of 10 for Leicester, let's get on to, again, the goal for Watford. I'm not going to slate him too much because, but again, it's a nice segue as well there. Just because,
Oh
again,
God.
it's good to put it into context as well. This is the graph that I was mentioning you when we were watching the match. This is, again, looking at the percentage of progressive passes playing forward of all time. So we've actually Harry Winks is there, 28 years old, 90.1% passes completion. I think forward passes completion as well, and that's over the world as well. Again, I think he had, even up to the goal, he did have a little bit of a quiet game from his usual standards because his standards are so high, and he just had an off game. And then one thing of what people are saying as well, just looking at the entry, I won't play the video now because probably get copyrighted, but if you look at the full-time goal, Enzo said, well done to the Watford manager, all the players. The first player he went to on the pitch was Harry Winks.
Really?
Yeah. And to kind of like saying, yeah, well done, man. We got this. We got this. I don't know if I can play it, but he ran onto the pitch to kind of say, well done. Yeah, I can't play this, but if you go onto
Okay.
Twitter, you'll be able to see it. He says,
He
well
looked
done.
like the
And I
world
think
had
as soon
swallowed
as he
him up,
goes,
didn't it? Yeah.
I'll show you afterwards. He'll go on. But in general, I mean, it's just one of those. It was a freak accident, basically. And it's not, again, it's showing the faith of Enzo that Hamza's coming on. I'm not going to take and just go, right, I'm going to take my star player off in Harry Winks. I'm going to keep him on for the 90 minutes, even though he made a pretty bad mistake.
Yeah, look, everyone's human, and he said that himself many times. I mean, at the same time, this is why when people say they don't like tippy tappy around the back, this is exactly what they're saying for, because they're saying, it's a brain dead mistake. Let's be honest with you. You got to call it out for what it is, right? It's like, that's elementary school football. You're receiving the ball at that part in the park. You're got your back to the attackers that are coming towards you, and you're playing a pass back the way that it came, and you don't even get there. I like the way that you're doing this, by the way, as well.
Yeah, it's
Stop
kind of
show
but you
pictures.
can
Yeah,
see straight over to
yeah.
thingy as well as kind of the middle ground. But yeah,
give
sorry.
him a little hug. Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, so the point is that if you play this football, even if you've got the best players in the world, they are always going to make a mistake, because humans are humans, they're not machines. You can't always do it. It could be anything. It could be that, like, just that one time you happen to swing at it, you slipped for some reason, you suddenly thought about something in your head, some freak accident, you seized up, you got an injury, or you just don't concentrate. It happens, and you'll do it. But in this case, if you play this style of football, it will cost you. Now, as it turns out, it's lucky that it's only been in a game where, for example, look at Fatal. He got sent up against Coventry. Lucky, unlucky, don't know, but we lose the game because of it. Today we make a brain dead mistake, but in the end it won't be remembered because we win the game. So it's all okay. But look, I think that's for me actually not the first, but one of the real, like, obvious clangers. I know, like, we had that one against Ipswich where someone struck the ball and Mads didn't make the best save and he palmed it out and they scored off the rebound. But that's still someone's engineered the shot. This is one where it's just like there's no two ways you can look about it. It's just a retarded, redonkulous goal to concede that even if you were playing schoolboy football, you would be told off for doing that, right? It's happened to one of our most consistent and best players. Luckily it didn't cost us too much, and we kept trying it that way onwards. But yeah, look, the second goal that we scored came from playing out from the back, but we conceded one from playing out from the back. Just got to get used to it. As teams get better and better at it, it's going to unlock things. Actually, I don't know if you saw last week, Arsenal played Liverpool and they beat them in what was a top of the table clash, and Arsenal managed to reduce Liverpool to hardly any efforts on goal. In fact, the only goal that Liverpool scored was also, funny enough, because there's a bit of a mistake at the back, which there was a bit of indecision, and one of the players actually ended up scoring an own goal rather than clearing it. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because Jurgen Klopp will go down as being one of the best managers in Premier League history, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not number 1 or number 2, but he's up there. Fantastic manager who took a Liverpool team and made them play fantastic, attacking, high press football. Changed the game in this country. He changed it to such a level that it created a new shift. And that new shift is that there's this new style of team that's appearing that is countering high press by being able to play their way out of the press. And the way that Arsenal was so successful is they were so good at playing out of the press that they actually made the Liverpool front three, which is normally incredible, look at times stupid because they were just chasing shadows. They couldn't get close to the ball. Why I said to you at the start of the season, I was so excited for Enzo, is that if it worked, we were going to end up with a team that was going to be one of those teams that's right on the cutting edge of being able to play that way. And that's why I'm not just excited for this season, but even next season. We don't know. Burnley are having a stinker right now. But if we get good at that style of football, at playing it out from the back, I think we're going to catch a lot of teams unawares because their system isn't going to work against us. They're going to be playing right into our strengths. They're going to be pushing up and then they'll lose the ball and then we'll play around them and we'll score against them. And we've seen that actually we're at our most potent when teams actually tried that and get it wrong. Like we said last week against Stoke. Stoke basically tried to play man for man and high press, but against a team that was just superior to them in every single aspect. And that's why they got absolutely battered. And, you know, you could argue the 5-0 flattered them even because that's how dominant it was. So, yeah, you got to take the rough with the smooth. We'll probably lose some games because of some stupid passes like that as well. I think that's what we need to get in our heads. Yeah, it hasn't happened
like
just
today.
Yet.
Not lose the game, but we were going to concede more of those.
Yeah, well, but if you concede one, but you win 4-1, no one's going to care, right? But what happens if it was like, oh, you would have made it to the semi-finals of the FA Cup or the final of the FA Cup, but you played it out from the back and the brain fart goal went in. Those are the ones that people are going to, you know, not remember. But look, I get that as a coach, you've got to be like, but if you play this style, you've got to commit to it because otherwise you're never going to get good at it. You can't be half-hearted kind of thing. And we're seeing the evidence of it. So, yeah, I'm going on a bit of a rant and a tirade here, but stupid mistake. But at the end of the day, we saw both the brilliance and the ridiculousness of playing out from the back and get used to it. For me, it's one of those really interesting things because, you know, sometimes when we play the moves, it's so funny, especially when in the stadium, especially amongst certain fans, how it really gives them, like, you can literally see their expression is like when they're doing this. Like, for example, we were all watching the game together and there was a chance that Watford had and it deflected off again fast and it almost went in for an own goal. Mm-hmm. And you just, it had everyone on the left-hand side and it's just hilarious. Everyone's reaction is just like, you know, yeah, like that. They're just like trying to cling on.
But it's a natural response as well, just to football and all that. Because it was close. It's not like it was what I think on commentary they're saying it was a yard or so away. So it was close to the goal.
Well, I'm just bringing this up because I think I actually think that's why people don't like playing out from the back, because it actually brings that on you more often than it not. It's not a safe way of playing, right? But it's a calculated risk. That's the way of thinking about it, right? Look, it's a bit like if there's a girl that you fancy, you're going to have to go up to them and start chatting them up. That is a calculated risk. What happens if they don't like you? They fancied your mate instead. Blah, 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 blah. Could end in disaster. But if it ends up working well, who knows? That could be the person you spend the rest of your life with, right? You just don't know. So I'm getting, yes, a bit of analogy here, but that's what I'm trying to say is why we need
advice. Take the risk. Take the risk
from beyond the 90. Exactly. Play it the Enzo way. You know, you got to be all about the build up and make sure that it's like, you know, finessed and well rehearsed. So yeah, there you go. I think it would just be fun to see what happens there. And yeah, I'm excited for next season. That's happened. I don't think, you know, just one thing quickly I'll say though is that, you know, sometimes passing up from the back, it is a confidence thing. At the moment, the team is winning every week, so we're confident and we're not going to lose the ability to do that. What I have noticed with some teams is when they struggle, they start making a lot more mistakes doing that. And that's when the style can really look quite calamitous. And we don't know how next season's going to go. Like, we definitely aren't going to be winning every single game again, that's for sure.
And not like this season. And just coming on to that, if we come back to the table again, we're on 75 points now.
Yeah. You see, Southampton did win again. They were 2-0 down.
5-3. They were 2-0 down, and then they won 5-3 in the end.
Yeah, they were
Sounds
3-2
like
down.
Man United rolling back nearly 10 years as well.
look, fair play to him. I've seen for whatever reason people are really against Russell Martin. Maybe because he does come
Same
across.
reason as us.
No, but what I was no. The funny thing is the Southampton fans have completely changed their opinion. Now they love him, right? But I think what it is he does sometimes come across as a bit like Brendan Rodgers, like what's in the envelope, a bit like Ricky Gervais from The Office type thing. But why I'm saying that is just because he did have a specific style and he has changed it, but he's stuck with his philosophy and he's completely turned it around and he's built a great team. And I think you have to respect anyone that's done it. Like for the longest time, people were saying, yeah, he has all this possession, but it's never really worked. He's never achieved promotion with any team or whatever. But now he's created a team that's gone like, I think 23 games unbeaten or something. I believe if they go unbeaten for one more game, that is the record in the championship. So so even though we might end up with the record in the championship ourselves, right, for the amount of points, you have to give them some credit where it's due. And look, the game against them will be fascinating when we play them because they've improved quite a lot. So respect to them
And the
for
game that
really
we played against them, I was there going suicide football. I mean, we play attacking football, but they were the fact. I remember the home fans every time they were playing it back. They were booing so loud.
What are you doing?
Yeah, this isn't working. What are you doing? Like, and it shows you again. This is the kind of the swings and roundabouts of if, for example, if we draw that game 2-2, people are going to be saying, well, why did we play out? Why didn't we go and kill the game off? Why didn't we bring on certain players and things like that? So it's just one of those things. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for that one. Again, practical substituted. Vardy came on, ran kind of holding the back line as well. Doyle came on, we mentioned as well. And the penalty one. Other than that, again, 3 points in the bag. I think Watford, in terms of who we've played so far this season, I've played Watford twice. They were improved from the last time we played them. They've been one of the tougher teams we've faced.
Yeah, look, I think in the end they made quite a good game of it. You have to say they put on a lot of subs and they started getting in our faces and trying to make things happen. But that said, I feel like if we hadn't gifted them a goal, it wasn't happening. Like I think they were comprehensively second best. I don't know. It's funny. Like they were a team that themselves were in the Premier League. They got to an FA Cup final. They've fallen quite a bit. Yeah, they've fallen quite a bit. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for them because it's like it just goes to show you how, it's good that we're going to get out of the championship probably first time of asking. But you see, like we just played Stoke again. That was another team. They finished 9th 3 seasons in a row, and now you look at them now.
Nautovic.
Yeah,
had some good players back then.
Norwich, another one. These are teams that like they were in the Premier League, but now you're thinking that you might not be back in the Premier League for a while, my friends. It's quite challenging. So yeah, I don't think they were that good in either game, to be totally honest with you. I think they got with it. Look, fair play. They're mid-table, so maybe that speaks more that we were better against them than we thought. But yeah, I mean, look, you've got all these teams that are up. If I'm thinking about them, Southampton was an easy game, but I don't expect it to be next time round. Leeds, we lost to. Now the return fixture's coming up very soon. That will be interesting.
Yeah.
Ipswich, I still stand by the fact that I don't understand how they got to, we didn't beat them either game. We should have beaten them at least once, maybe even both. One game they definitely deserved to get something out of it. The other one they didn't, in my opinion. It's a bit lucky. West Brom, we got lucky with the 3 points, but I think we were better for that game and we just kind of took the foot off the gas at the wrong point. I think the return leg, though, that'll be a tricky game for sure. Sunderland, they were unlucky not to get something against us. We got to be fair. Hull, they beat us, but they fluked that one. That said, the return fixture again will be interesting just because they've signed like a whole new team pretty much, right? They got a lot of good players there.
But you look at the points from where they are to where we are, it's 50%. So in terms of like from West Brom to where we are, which I'm looking again, only from 6th to 7th, 45, sorry, less than 50. So 50 points. If you had 50 points, it would put you 5th. And look at the drop off from like Ipswich Town to the likes of West Brom, and then there's a load of 40s, and we're on 75.
Yeah, but you got to remember the wage budget as well, right? Like, I mean,
of course, but it's just again, we mentioned PSG with the Championship, but there's been teams that have again, you mentioned the likes of your Watfords and things that have spent the money badly and have gone and have stayed in the Championship and not got to the level that we've got.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's being proven now, actually. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season. But I think if you get relegated to the championship, that first season you go down, you've actually got to spend big, as
Mhm.
crazy as it sounds, because you've got to get out of there as soon as you possibly can. I think if you actually take your foot off the gas, that's when you get into danger. I do know that Stoke tried that, but they bought the wrong players and it didn't work out too well. So it can be a risk. It can be a risk. But I think that all of the three teams, because at the moment, it's hard not to see the three relegated teams going back up. Now, one of those teams is going to end up in the playoffs. That's just a fact. But the thing is, with the depth of squad that they have, you would still fancy them. I mean, look, anything can happen in the playoffs, but I think that they'll get to the finals regardless because the first one's over 2 legs. Then in the final, of course, anything can happen and often does because it's a best of one occasion. But that's kind of bad for the league here because to be honest with you, it's like the Premier League. Like a lot of people have said, oh, Aston Villa and West Ham are doing quite well this season. But if you look at their wage budgets are quite up there. I think Aston Villa have got like the 7th highest wage budget in the division. So fair play, they've outperformed that because they're 4th, but it's not like they're paupers or anything like that, In fact, to be honest with you, even when we were doing really good and we finished 5th 2 seasons in a row, our wage budget was pretty high as well, as it turned out. And we were
FFP trouble.
Yeah, that's what we were counting on.
Newcastle the same thing at the moment.
Clearly that was the strategy though, and it almost, to be fair, it almost worked. There's a different timeline where we do win that final game of the season and we get to the Champions League in one of those 2 seasons, and everyone's talking about Leicester. They cracked it, they won the Premier League, they won the FA Cup, they're getting to the Champions League. It's not the top 6 anymore, it's the top 7, and the East Midlands
and also promoting the youth in likes of Harvey Barnes, bringing people into from the English talent to the likes of, again, James Justin was on the fringe of the England team. James Maddison broke in. Harry Maguire went for 80 million, but came in under Leicester as well. I'm forgetting anybody else. Ben Chilwell was another one as well. So we had a philosophy, and it did work. But again, swings and roundabouts as well.
Yeah, look, ultimately it's failed, but I would have to say that it's the closest anyone has come through doing it in an organic method. But you can see what the risk was. The risk that we played is that to up the wages so that we could compete by getting those top players. And it worked. We got James Maddison, Yuri Tielemans and co. But, unfortunately, just not the depth of squad and other teams have. And that cost us in the end. So interesting. That said, it's never dull to be a Leicester fan. And I think we always said that as long as we went up this season, it may not necessarily be the worst thing to have a kind of, because you know what this is like? This is like taking a sabbatical at work. Like you've worked you've worked for Beyond the 90 for 10 years, Neil. You've been grinding hard. You've given them the best years of your life. And they've said, you know what, Neil? We're going to respect your work. So we're going to give you a paid sabbatical.
Give you a gap year.
Yeah. You're going to get paid. You can do whatever you want. Come back, relax. We're going to have an exciting new project for you when you get back. And so you're just enjoying your time. And you're like, I get to like piss all over these terrible teams on a weekly basis and score great football. So that's kind of how it feels like at the moment. It definitely couldn't have felt that way, but we've got lucky, I think, that not only has the team done well, but, we've actually, I don't think we've been less than like 5th in the league, have we? Like,
I think we've been first the entire time.
No, there was
we won 2-1.
I remember after we lost to Hull, there was a point where we weren't even in the top 3. As scandalous as that is going to sound, there was a time I remember when Preston North End were top, Ipswich was 2nd, and I think we were 3rd. So believe it or not, we have been outside of the top 2. But I think since we got into first place, I don't think we've come out of first place, which is a bit like when we won the last title that we won. Something similar happened. There you go.
Fair enough.
No, so yeah, we've been as low as 8th before, but since then, it's
and you can
call Sean Stato. He knows everything.
Yeah, Sean knows his stuff, man. I mean, also coming from, you look at the likes of Southampton that were top, and then they went down to I think about 8th, and then they kind of hovering around like mid-table, and then they just slowly started winning. And as you mentioned, that loads of it, and then they're right back up there. Ipswich were on the same level as us. They've dropped. So again, it's just.
Do you know Leeds and Southampton play each other on the last day of the season? Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah,
that is. You decide who's going up as well.
That might be. I know it's going to sound crazy, but if we're watching the last game of the season, I'd be tempted to have both of them on at the same time.
No, it makes sense. In the same way that in the last game of the season, there was nothing to play for last season. So all the attention was on who's going to go up on the relegation. Everton and Leicester.
Yeah.
So just coming into that, I think just kind of closing final thoughts. Coming back to the game a little bit. Again, closing thoughts, I know, but I just want to leave you with, I think, the picture that summed it up quite nicely, which is this one, which is kind of the second goal from Ricardo, and just playing great football, aren't we?
Yeah. Look, playing out for a back, the positives and the negatives, but the positives do outweigh the negatives. Professional, got 3 points. I think it was a decent, if not good, performance overall. On to the next one, which is Sheffield Wednesday. They got a scammy draw against us last time round, so let's put that right at home.
Yep.
And
rotation.
75 points. By my calculations, I reckon we're 25 points away from promotion. So not many. How many games is that now? That's about 8 wins. 8 wins, 1 draw. He's getting closer.
With 31 played. So we've got, was it 30? Oh, I can't remember. 42 games championship again.
We could honestly do it in March. It's not improbable. It depends on how the other teams are performing, but we could be up by March. Let's see.
It could be. But again, we take it one game at a time. We've got 2 games. We've got Leeds, obviously, and then we've got Leeds the week after, and then we've got and then Sheffield Wednesday. But Anil, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday for the game against Sheffield Wednesday. We'll see you on the next video. So goodbye.